University of Minnesota. I have a small lab in the Center for Neuropsychosis and Addiction, Department of Neuroscience. And I'm going to give you an idea about what we have done in the Neuroscience Interest Group within the International Society for Addiction Medicine. We call ISAM-NIC, Neuroscience Interest Group. And within the Neuroscience Interest Group, we developed what we call Addiction Cue Reactivity Initiative, or ACRI. And Addiction Cue Reactivity, or ACRI, as a VICON, Virtual Collaborative Network, what we have done so far. Okay, 6 p.m. in the afternoon, if I give you a nice hot brownie and I ask you, okay, how much do you like to have a brownie? And I give you something like a scale from 0 to 100. What is the number that you assign right now? Give me a number. How much do you like to have the brownie? 95. 95. Mark? 50. Mark 50. Alex?
Well, if it's hot, I'm not sure I want it. If it's warm, I think it will be sufficient.
Okay, so people could give it a different number, okay? This is what we call a cue that could induce food craving. And people have different responses. I had a really bad food poisoning last night, and if you show this to me, it's something like 0 for me, because I'm still kind of struggling with the food poisoning. So people have different numbers. But we have the same phenomenon in drug addiction, and we call it drug cue reactivity or addiction cue reactivity. And people who are using substances, they have reactions to those cues. And those cues could make them crave using drugs. And over time, people realized that how the level of responsiveness to those drug cues would be to level that people are at risk for relapse. And there is a recent meta-analysis by one of our friends, Haley Kober in Yale. She did a really nice job showing that there is a really good connection between being cue reactive and having craving because of being exposed to drug cues and relapse. And she was suggesting in that publication that that should be a part of the clinical practice because it's an important part of predicting who is going to relapse and who is not going to relapse. So cue reactivity is an important part for us in addiction treatment, addiction medicine. But what we try to do in terms of using cue reactivity as a core to develop a virtual collaborative network. In the first level, we started with networking. We started with webinars. We ran several webinars discussing about cue reactivity, and then we started to share the databases that we developed. One of the databases that we recently shared is called Methamphetamine Opioid Cue Database. It has 320 cues for in different contexts, and people in different countries right now are using that. So I'm receiving emails from people in different countries, from China, from people in South America, probably in the US, in Europe, and people are using these drug cues to basically assess how much people are responsive to those drug cues. And after our kind of initiative to put together these two databases, people in other kind of labs are doing the same. They are putting out their databases. Now there are databases for alcohol, for cannabis, and even before us, people have been trying to do that. But it's a kind of interesting to see how people are contributing to that. And in the other level, we use these drug cues to measure how people are responding, how their brain are responding when they see drug-related cues compared to neutral cues inside an fMRI scanner. So we put the people inside the scanner and see how their brain is responding. So these are the tasks that we use to see how brain is responding. These are the activations that we have in the brain. And we use these brain activations for many different purposes. So I will discuss about that. But what we try to do, we try to develop databases that people can use in other countries, or tasks in the other countries to be used. So we develop some initial databases that people can use, and also some replication databases to show that how much the response will be the same, and also not only replication, but also being able to have a task for multiple use. So we developed something like 3 different versions of the task. So people have access to this task right now. So if you just see the paper in the supplementary material, you have the access to the task. So we basically started the idea of networking with sharing the information that we have. That was an example. In the next level, for coordination, see how we might be able to coordinate what people are doing in different parts of the world. Different people are developing different interventions for Q reactivity, so we realize that we need to have a single nomenclature and consensus on how to name these interventions and organize that around that. And we had a specific webinar discussing about Q-based interventions and how Q-based interventions are being kind of developed, how we can categorize them. And there's another QR code. If you can scan that QR code, you can just double check that. That would link you to a YouTube channel that ISAM has. That might be something that you might like to subscribe now. Just push the button and subscribe for ISAM. This is the ISAM basically YouTube channel. And we put all those videos on ISAM YouTube channel, and you can have access to those videos discussing about how Q-based interventions are being designed, and then trying to harmonize what people are doing in different labs based on a specific categorization structure that we are right now developing. The other thing that we have done in terms of coordination or harmonization of activities between different labs, we developed a checklist that everybody who's interested to do fMRI drug reactivity, they can use the checklist to basically see what are the items that they need to consider in their study. And to be able to do that, we did a systematic review of fMRI drug reactivity studies, and then we made a steering committee of major figures in the field, and then we basically initially developed a checklist. We revised the checklist over time in the Delphi consensus process, and we asked people to basically rate the items in the checklist, and we finally developed the checklist. In the checklist, we already have 7 categories, 38 items, and 75 recommendations for those who are interested to do fMRI drug reactivity. And we showed that if we evaluate the published literature right now in the field of fMRI drug reactivity, this is the number of basically how much different studies that are already published, they are adhering with those standards. And as you can see here, there are specific items that people are supposed to report in their study that they are underreported in fMRI drug reactivity studies. And this is the kind of the distribution of what we have. So just one paper in the kind of database that we reviewed had like over 90% of adherence to the checklist. And there are many people who are underreporting those minor methodological details that are important if you want to basically be fully transparent on what you want to do. And we published that in Nature Portables recently, the checklist and the process. And this is helping us basically to ask other labs to coordinate what they are doing and try to be transparent and do things in the quality that others can understand and share the data together. This is the kind of the access to the kind of Q reactivity Twitter channel, and we report whatever new published evidence in the field, and we evaluate all these recent publications based on that checklist. The third level is just doing another level of collaboration. And for being able to do that, we started a new, what we call a mega-analysis. For mega-analysis, we have started to ask different labs that are doing fMRI drug reactivity to share their databases in a platform, and then using those shared databases and asking different labs to do data analytics on those databases. So we developed a specific analytic pipeline for that. We call that Enigma of pipeline, and we asked different labs. And so far, we have 3,000 imaging data from 3,000 participants of fMRI drug reactivity studies collected from different labs. And now we have a large database of all these kind of studies, and we are using those kind of pieces of data to see how we can kind of find some interesting results. So we'll discuss about the final kind of application of these databases. And beyond that, we have started thinking about, okay, different labs are using fMRI as a measure to assess how much an aesthetic intervention is effective, but people are using different tasks. There are different variations of tasks. People are using, every lab uses its own type of lab, kind of instrument. So we started another initiative within what we have been doing before, and we provide people with an information in terms of, okay, this is the kind of variation of the task that we have. But if we want to have one single standard task, what would be the factor that we are interested to have? So we ask people, we provide them with the information that we already have, and then we ask them, what is your suggestion? If you have one single task that every lab that we have in the world would be interested to use, what would be the number that you want to do? And we are trying to see how we might be able to encourage people to use a standard task, which is a really hard thing to do because people are even willing to use other people's kind of toothbrush, but they are not very willing to kind of take any other's task. So it's just really hard for people to do. But this is what the other thing that we are trying to do. And in the same context, we are trying to see how we can increase the quality of fMRI drug cure activity to get to a level to be able to apply for biomarker qualification pathway with FDA. That's another level of collaboration that we are doing. To be able to do that, within the ISAM, we had a specific webinar discussed about that on October 2020, as you can see here. Then we had another meeting in ACMP, American College of Neuropsychopharmacology, on 2021. And based on that, we basically started to develop a specific framework of collaboration to bring all the pieces of evidence for qualification for a biomarker for fMRI. And based on that, on the next level of collaboration, we are right now putting pieces of evidence from different labs to apply for what we call FDA letter of interest. And nobody so far has been able to receive a letter of interest in the field of addiction from FDA for something as a biomarker, which is something that we need to do collaboratively with kind of interaction between different labs. So this is the new initiative that we are trying. So we are putting pieces of evidence based on what they call BEST framework within the FDA, and we are doing the analytics on that, and we are putting together something like an application for FDA on that virtual collaborative network. And the last piece of work that we are doing, beyond all those things that we are doing, we are trying to see, okay, if these are the specific brain areas that are important for cure reactivity, and cure reactivity is important for relapse, how we might be able to modulate those specific brain areas with neuromodulation technologies. And for being able to do that, we basically need to optimize brain stimulation technologies based on those specific targets. And this is another kind of level of collaboration that we are doing. And within the same kind of collaboration, we are trying to find what are going to be the best maps that different labs can do this kind of same job together to see how we might be able to target those areas. If you are interested, we are going to have a specific panel on recent advanced addiction treatment. Mark is going to talk about psychopharmacology. I'm going to talk about neuromodulation treatment and new advances in neuromodulation treatment for addiction. And this is something that we will discuss about how we are collaboratively finding the right target for brain stimulation in addiction. And we are ready to support others who are interested to kind of learn about the experiences that we had. And this is, I think, the way that it is going to work at the end of the day. We put together a roadmap paper on how to integrate neuroscience to addiction treatment. It has been published recently, and this is one of the things that we try to make a roadmap of how to bring neuroscience to addiction treatment. And that's my last slide, just some take-home notes about what we have been discussing. First, it would be nice to start some questions, the important topics. Here I discussed about cure reactivity as important topic. So we shaped our virtual collaborative network around cure reactivity. And then we basically use systematic reviews to find all the people who publish in this area. So we collected all the experts that were active in the field, and we use the systematic reviews to also see what are the important issues that we need to target. We have started to share the methodological experience and protocols that we have. We try to push methodological transparency. We encourage people to use the checklist and report all the things that they are doing to increase the transparency. We also try to explore potentials to harmonize what people are doing in different labs, and trying to also find platforms or potentials to do what we call mega-analysis, collecting databases from different labs and do analysis together, and also at the other level being able to apply for joint funds. Most of the kind of granting agencies are not that much willing to support multi-site trials, but if you are able to show that I'm able to do that, I already have the background, I've done things in this network, then you can apply for those levels. And it's always important to consider that these networks are supposed to support junior investigators from developing countries, from underrepresented minorities, so this is what we try to do in terms of bringing everybody into the decision-making process. And do not forget that what we are doing is just to promote diversity and sharing caring in the context of scientific collaboration and probably making a better quality of care for our patients. Thank you for your attention.